All right. Live again.
We're back.
Alive. Sorry. Hey everyone, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us back here, behance.net/live. I am Jason Levine, here with Evan Abrams. Thanks for coming back for day 2.
Yeah, well, I'm a prisoner here, so I can't
We do have him chained under the desk. And for the next 2 hours, we're going to continue on the agency brief around the theme Utopia and sort of picking up where we left off yesterday. Now, yesterday you really got into some of the fundamentals around sort of picking your color palette and, you know, working with limitations and kind of that basic grid style design of kind of using layout to really kind of just begin that creative process to give yourself an idea of where you wanted to go with this and how you wanted these pieces to align.
Exactly. Yesterday was really a setting the groundwork, talking about making decisions, being effective with our decision making, and really trying to get some of the process behind the product.
Right.
Today, though, I think we're going to get a little bit more specific, and we're going to actually make some of the fun details of the pieces.
Nice.
So we've got quite a selection to choose from. But just to remind everyone, just in case they weren't here, the creative brief that we've received is a planet, Utopia. Has opened for visitors, and we've been tasked to attract people. And this is what I brought to the party. It is we got a patchwork of many scenes. So folks in the chat, if there's a scene that you're specifically interested in, let us know and we'll focus on that. Like, there's a lot going on here. We can't possibly get to all of it, but you know, what if there's something that you're really into, then we'll get into it.
Awesome.
But for me, I think where I would like to start is probably on this drinking at the beach scenario down in the corner.
Cool.
So
All right.
we might start there.
Also want to remind everyone, of course, that we've got a contest going on. So if you are watching via Behance, behance.net/live, go into the contest tab where you'll find links about the brief where you can download assets. And we need to have all of your submissions in by 10:30. 10:30. Excuse me. Nope, that's wrong. That was the previous one. 2:30 Pacific time. 2:30 Pacific time. We are here from 1 to 3 today with Evan. So 2:30 Pacific time, which means you've got about an hour and a half to get your submissions in. And as they come through, we're just going to probably break away and start showing them so that we can kind of come back around 15 minutes before and review them and give away the big prize. We will also have a random giveaway at the top of the hour, the next hour. So you want to stick around and be present in the chat. You need to be here to win. And also, once again, a happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Abrams.
Thanks.
Very awesome that you would spend your birthday
There is
here
nothing
with us.
Nothing I would rather be doing.
Right.
It's you know, it's every day, you know, so it's
Awesome.
good.
All right.
But yeah, speaking of things to do on your birthday, why don't we go get a drink at the beach?
Let's go get a drink at the beach.
And so what we're looking at here is, when thinking of what is utopic, what kind of a utopic scene would we look at? Well, I assumed if I'm sitting at the beach, I would love it if the beach somehow rejuvenated my drink when I set it down, which is why we have this wonderful relaxing pose here at the sunset. So some of the things that are going on here is, you know, some gradient and line style out here, and we've got a couple of suns moving around. The whole thing loops, which is kind of useful. It's a very simple loop because it ends on just ends on a frame that's the same. There's no like, when we make a loop, and we could talk about looping stuff because GIFs are so hot right now.
Sure. And a lot of the new iPhone options, you can create those boomerang style loopable videos very easily now.
So we're talking about the idea of a boomerang style, like we're going to go this way
And then reverse
and then
backward,
go back,
yeah.
right? That's the easiest way to
Right.
loop something.
Sure, of course. Don't have to worry about the seam because you're just already at that frame. There's no break there.
Exactly, exactly. And in After Effects, there's a lot of techniques we can use to do more complicated looping things, like something that loops in such a way that the audience might not even perceive that it's looping, right? And then their concept of time gets out of whack, and it's very good. So
I had a question though, actually, because of the popularity now and sort of the reemergence of animated GIFs, looping and stuff like that. Do you think people are as sensitive to the seam anymore? I mean, it used to be, it was a faux pas, right? If you could kind of see something's looping, and it looked
Right.
like it was, you're an amateur.
This is one of the things that kind of goes from being a bug to being a feature.
Right. Right.
Like it's
like jump cuts.
exactly.
Right.
It becomes part of the style of the thing.
Right.
And so then we see people like intentionally going towards that.
Right.
Or, I think it's really the use of the GIF that makes these things necessarily faster.
Okay.
The idea is I'm going to share this small bit of something with such and such meaning, and really it's pretty divorced and independent from sort of the quality of that thing. It's really just, here's a snippet of something, I'd like to share it to you.
Yeah, cool.
So I don't know, maybe as things get more nuanced, like if you like frame blend those things, eventually an app will probably be doing that.
Right.
But
No, right. No doubt.
That'd be something for an app to
That's
do.
right.
So yeah, getting into this scene here. The idea was, what I would like is for like a first-person perspective. We're staring out at the sun. We're bringing this regular tumbler glass up to the face. Chug, chug. Now the level is lower, and then we put it back down. Now there's a lot in here that seems kind of three-dimensional, right? There's a lot that gives us the impression that we're enjoying a three-dimensional scene, and there's a lot of things that make that happen. But really, all of this is made of 2D shape layers, and that's it. There's not a lot to it. Even our deformation here that's being caused by the glass.
Which, by the way, Joseph pointed out loves the distortion there.
Oh, good.
Noticeably so, yeah.
So that's one of the things that really sells the internal consistency of the scene, right? And we talked a bit about internal consistency yesterday, and the idea that if you're establishing rules in your universe, whatever universe, whether it's a planet or whether it's a boardroom or whatever universe you're depicting, it needs to be somehow consistent. So when we talk about things need to be consistent, all the little shadows from these weird pyramids are working in a consistent way.
Right.
There is something incredibly inconsistent about the scene. Can you tell me what it might be?
Those two elements lingering in the sky there, perhaps?
That's right, and we only have one shadow coming off of them. So, but hey, if you notice something like that, a space wizard did it.
That's right.
So
stylistic approach.
that's right. So that kind of thing of having these shadows all point in a normal direction, that informs us of what the perspective is like. So then when we have the legs here, those are conforming in the same kind of way. But yeah, if we start stripping away some of the things, like we say, well, let's not have that distortion, right? Let's take those distortions away.
Now, of course, Laura's asking, how did you do that? Now you're going to go into how you...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that would be quite a tease. If
That's
I
right.
did it, right?
Okay, excellent.
How amazing is this?
This is so cool.
Moving on.
I'm not going to show you how I did it.
Exactly. That's for me to.
That's right.
But yeah, so right now we've got all these shapes kind of moving around, and the distortion though, which is nice. I went ahead and when I was playing around, I was thinking, how much distortion, how distorted in what ways. But the big thing is, where is the distortion going to happen? Right? And we know it's going to happen where this glass is at. So let me just go through some of the constructions so we can kind of build it up a little bit as we get there. So, isolating some things. This is the bottom rim of the glass, right? And if we look here, it's really just a shape layer. Its size is changing over time. So as you can see, the size is changing, so the ratio is changing as it tips, and now it's tipping, and now it's over here. And all of this is stuck on a null, and the null is what we're using to control the glass's movement, its position, its scale, its rotation. And in this case, the scale is what's telling us it's getting towards us or away from us.
Little trickery there.
Yeah, exactly. And we could, if you wanted to, you could make all this in 3D, and instead of using scale, you could be
moving the camera. Right.
You could be moving the camera, you move an object towards the camera. Yeah. So there are many ways to accomplish the exact same thing, and really After Effects has a whole lot of 3D stuff built into it, which we'll get into in other scenes. But for this one, I thought, I'm going to keep it simple for myself. So,
and also, much like yesterday, performance-wise, I mean, if we're going to get down to just actually that ability to modify, see the change, 3D just adds an additional layer of, or level of more processing power.
Yeah.
This is
And
super lean, clean, and fast.
the other sort of big decision to make is to say that this is going to be a level of unreality. It's not going to be exactly correct. Like when you actually tip a glass, the circle doesn't deform this way,
Right.
But this is close and kind of cartoonish, so that fits with the style.
Right, totally.
If we have like fairly cartoony or we have fairly stylized people and other elements, and then there's one thing in that scene that is behaving very realistically,
Right.
that can throw people.
That's right.
You've ruined the continuity of your piece. So we're gonna keep it simple. So we've got this bottom rim here, and it's defining some stuff. And so of course this thing would need to have a top rim to it, which is a little bit more complicated, but the top rim follows the bottom rim. There aren't even any keyframes on this thing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So what it's doing,
Oh, I see an expression in there.
we're gonna get into some expression.
So I was going to ask, any expressions today?
That's right.
I see it.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like this expression here, we're just linking. Where is it? There it is. So here's sort of the outer ellipse, and really I'm just pick whipping from one to the other. I'm saying,
As this one moves,
yeah,
changes
your
size,
size is the same
affects
as
the same
other
size.
size.
Yep. Mhm.
And then sort of within that, we've got this smaller internal line, which we could have scaled it down. We could have scaled it, but instead I thought, well, let's just bump it in by 30 pixels, right? So in that way we're saying, well, look at this other layer, so that's what this is telling us. Look at that size, and then subtract from it X. In this case, X is 30.
This is 30, yep.
Your dimension.
Ah, nice.
So, if a producer comes by and says, well, that should be bigger, so you could just bump it up like
Right.
that. You're giving yourself a little bit of control. Now you could not use the variable, right? You could always say, well, I'll just type the 30 in, right? In the brackets, 30. But if somebody else comes along to this project after me, and we were talking about this yesterday, the idea of being part of an agency and working with teams and other humans. If someone else came along and tried to understand this project, that would be a little bit difficult. And in fact, I've done a bit of a faux pas by not labeling sort of the contents that are in here. So by not labeling stuff, I'm making it harder for me to determine what's going on. So yeah, we've got a bottom, we've got a top, they're linked together, which is wonderful. But a glass also needs sides. It needs to have some sides on it. So those would be the walls, I guess, which in this case are just defined by a couple of lines there. And in this, there's no keyframes on that either.
Yeah, that's right.
So, those are keyframes are bad.
And using that same expression again, just to
Similar, right?
Similar, yeah.
So in this case, we're using an expression to link the size of a rectangle path, its vertical size, to how far apart these two circles
the edges
are
of the
from each
rims
other.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, and that allows us to, as we move the circles together or far apart, this will scale automatically. So we have way fewer things to do. Like there are fewer keyframes for us to worry about. So when we want to make modifications to our work, because everything's automatically linked together, we aren't messing around with like 20 keyframes that need to be synced up to make things happen. If we look at every keyframe in this piece,
it's fairly minimal actually. You'd expect to see a lot more.
Yeah, there's some in here, but not a lot.
Now, just on that, because Voodoo Val just commented like on the motion too, and the motion is so fluid. So now, did you graph editor make this motion path, or did you motion sketch this, or is there some other sorcery going on here that just makes it look so?
Yeah, I mean, it could be some sorcery. A lot of it is just little tweaks over time. So the way things started out, I'll start with the position. Let's get that locked down.
Right, okay.
Now I'm going to add in a little rotation, and the rotation kind of makes it good. So putting in these little movements. So
combination of the properties just adds a bit more of that fluidity.
So if you think about it like you're adding layers of flavor, right? Or you're putting extra finishes on things. So we could just do position and scale. Absolutely we could. But when you add the rotation in, it becomes more real. And what we could do is have everything move at the same time. We could have like a wall of keyframes, a wall of keyframes, a wall of keyframes, but nothing really moves like that except a robot, right? Like we don't.
As we established yesterday, right?
Yeah, like if I'm gonna pick this up,
Right.
I don't pick it up.
That's right. Right, and it doesn't stay in that same position.
That's
it
right.
likely turns a little.
Yeah,
right.
I'm picking it up.
Can you do that actually? Can we? Let's see.
Yeah, close.
Almost.
Yeah, but then you couldn't drink out of it.
That's right.
Bonk, bonk. So, when you're thinking of these things, though, and I did when I'm sitting at my desk, the process for this is, well, now I'm going to put a glass on my desk. How does that look? It looks like this. Repeat the action a bunch of times. You'll find a lot of people who do animation are also studying motion a lot. They're observing the natural thing. If you're going to animate a dog, you should look at a dog, right? And you know, you should get an idea of what are the primary motions that are happening. The primary motion here is the motion of coming to the middle, hanging out in the middle for a while, moving up a little bit, and then down, right?
You're a believer in letting it linger. We learned that yesterday, right? I think that's part of perhaps part of your signature.
Maybe,
It's just letting it. You're taking the animation in a bit.
Yeah.
And that adds to that realism too.
Well, you spend a lot of time animating these things. You should show off your work, right?
Like that.
So, and really, you need to be. You're not animating something because you're not animating the glass because the glass moved towards the camera.
Right.
You're doing it because that is showing off something. You're trying to communicate something with this. So you always want to make sure that you're timing out stuff that is working out.
Okay. I'm just amazed that you didn't motion sketch that at all. I was sure.
I did not.
Okay.
No, and I might have. I don't motion sketch a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because usually I'm working in rough movements and then refining those movements.
Right. Okay.
Because I really do think in sort of precise terms often. We were talking about grids yesterday, right?
Sure.
And I find like that kind of hard positioning is helpful. So let's just call it the old grid over here. Ooh, not like that. Get the proportion grid going. So, as you can see, it's a little bit off over there, but it comes up Wes Anderson right in the middle, right? And not only is it right in the middle, but we're kind of clustered down here.
Very beautifully, beautiful symmetry going on
right
there.
in the space. And if we see everything in terms of this grid, you'll notice that this is up here in this.
You're really filling that space with both sides of the glass and the sun.
Creates this column. The sun is roughly the same size as the glass. The glass is taking up this middle third, so the attention is stuck right in that middle third area.
Was that conceptualized as you were putting it together, or done sort of tweaked after the fact?
So let's see, real quick. There we go.
Jan Erik, what's the benefit of doing this in AE versus Animate CC?
So I'm not totally familiar with a lot of things that Animate CC does, and I know it has a lot of good character tools in there. There's a lot of interesting things. I prefer doing a lot of things in After Effects because that's where a lot of things come together. So in terms of what the rest of the project is going to be and how all that's going to come together. I want to use After Effects because it lets me organize things. Also, when I started, there wasn't an Animate CC, so that is not a tool that I'm super familiar with.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: like, if you're really comfortable making things happen in the old Flash ways, then Animate's going to be super good for you.
Sure.
Right? Or if you are interested in using something like Harmony Toon Boom, like those things, if you're doing a lot of drawing, like frame by frame, but all of those things. A lot of the times, eventually, all that stuff outputs something that's going to end up in After Effects anyway.
That's right. Or in some other kind of timeline against video and other titling and things
exactly.
Like that
So that's kind of why I like to start in that place. Yeah. So this is where the scene started. This was the rough, terrible sketch that I did, just to understand, where things are going to be, how it's going to be laid out. It certainly changed by the time.
But it's pretty close. I mean. Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
I got rid of these weird crystal things.
Yes, I know. What is that exactly that you got there? Little spaceships rising?
Could be anything. It's
balloons,
a weird planet.
Space balloons?
Yeah, it's a fun crystal thing.
Crystal balloons? What are those?
Come to a planet, it's got floating crystals.
Of course it
everywhere.
does.
You're in space. Yes. So, this is the idea to sort of test out and see if the geometry kind of worked for me, so that I can see before I even start making shape layers, before I'm doing anything else, I can see if the geometry that I'm putting together is going to work.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and doing it in here really quickly, I'm able to see that will work. Okay, now let's go do it.
Right.
We talked about this yesterday as well. The idea of being able to prototype something for yourself, make a roadmap, figure out where you're going to go before you go there. A lot of people crack open the software right away, they jump in there like, I'm on a deadline, I got to get in there, and then before you know it, you're 3 hours in, you don't have anything to show for it. Whereas, spend some time, put this together, you can have someone approve it if they need to. So yeah, this is where it started. It's also easy to draw things in perspective here.
Right,
so.
totally. And Sarah was asking you just more on the motion sketch. Is that sort of considering a cheat versus doing it by hand? I mean,
who are you cheating?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
If it works for you in the project, I think it's legit, right?
Yeah, and just there's kind of a concept like you're doing it a cheater way, right? Like, oh yeah, well, there's no top marks for hard labor.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And that's an excellent point, actually. That's an excellent point.
No one is going to reward you.
No,
for
don't care. They don't care at all. In fact, probably telling them makes them care even less about the time involved. Sometimes, right?
So the idea that I did it the hard way,
right?
Which can be cool.
Right.
If the end result though isn't visually very different, and if it's not substantially improved by that method, so I guess the highest example would be client comes to you and they say, we'd like this to look like it's done like painting with ink on wet paper, right? They say that, and you're like, I could use a bunch of effects to make this happen, or we could actually get some ink and some paper, right? We could do it for real. And, would that process be rewarded? I don't know. If the budget for the piece is a certain dollar value, don't do that.
That's right.
Right? You have to work within what you've got. And if, for you, the motion sketch gets you done on time, gets you the result you want, and you can always refine the motion sketch, right? You can... You do the motion sketch, and that generates keyframes. You can smooth them, you can change them, you can move them around, and if that gets you there faster, make it happen. So.
All about efficiency, Sarah. Yep, that's so true. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you want to be as efficient with your time as possible because you only have so much of it in the universe. So, returning back to the scene with more technical things. So, I won't get too much into. We've established the motion. If you want to put in some position keyframes, that kind of thing. The big interesting thing in here is that glass deformation. That is the central thing that is interesting. Right. And we have to go over kind of how it's made, just to sort of show you how the sauce comes together.
So we've seen kind of all the elements of the glass itself.
Exactly. And having a look at this control, so this is scaling up. And so this is providing us a bit of data that we're going to use. There's an adjustment layer over top of everything, which is putting CC lens on stuff, which is just making it feel a little bit more like you're inside someone's head, getting that VR experience. But if we just look at the glass, we've got the liquid in the glass as well. That is some keyframes on an ellipse path constructed very similarly to the glass, right? It's a bunch of shape layers, but it has an independent control that allows us to sort of change the level of the water, which is great. Then, once we've got a glass, we've got a thing in the glass, we then think to ourselves, if these things are going to be deforming the space behind them as the light travels through the glass, and it doesn't work with a water bottle, but as the image, because there's water in here which changes the density, but anyway, the light is coming through here, it's going to contact this wall, so this wall will change what things look like, this wall will change what things look like, the liquid inside will change what things look like, the bottom of the thing will also affect differently how things look. So those are sort of the areas that we're thinking about when we're thinking about what are we going to do here.
Yeah, how's it going to distort?
Yeah.
By the way, Steve, he's asked a few times, and I don't know if you've done any, and you talked about one yesterday, but did you use any plugins for any of this piece here?
All of this is vanilla After Effects.
All vanilla native.
Yeah, this is I'm pretty tame in my plugin taste. I'll be honest. I try to keep things fairly subdued. Like I do enjoy the rubber hose plugin, which is great for noodle-armed people.
Right, we talked about that, and the one from Battle Axe.
Yeah, those are both from Battle Axe.
Oh, both
actually.
from Battle Axe. Okay, awesome.
They are 3 for 3. Awesome.
All right. I believe they had a Cyber Monday deal on
That's
those
right.
3 yesterday,
They
or 2 days ago.
No stinkers come out, and so the other plugin they make is called Overlord, which makes your transitioning elements from Illustrator into After Effects very seamless, which is very fun. Which is an extension rather than a plugin, but we don't need to be too technical about that.
Right. Okay.
But for this, everything that we're doing here, you can do without installing any other plugins. And so, without further ado,
Yes.
let us reveal what makes the distortion happen. So, if we turn on the liquid distortion, we can see the before and after of that. And basically what I've done is I've just copied the liquid layer. Everything is the same. I'm happy with the motion. I duplicate it.
Right.
I could then go and link everything together so that one
property
drives
links
the
or
other.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we could have one drive the other if we truly wish.
Right.
But because we were short on time, I was like, I'll just duplicate it. I'm not going to go back and change. But what is doing the deforming is that I've set it to be an adjustment layer. Any layer can be an adjustment layer, including shape layers.
That's right.
Now, this is now an adjustment layer that lives under this one, takes up the exact same space. It's a bit of a cheat because I'm using kind of the edges here, this stroke here to kind of cover up some of the whoopsies that'll happen, but then I just apply a turbulent displace on it. Turbulent displace is using, I believe it uses like a fractal or a Gaussian?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
All the above.
Okay.
I've heard it every which
GIF,
way.
GIF.
Yeah, I know, right. You can
Hey,
tomato.
Tell me which one it is in the comments.
That's right, yeah.
But so we're just using a turbulent displace with an amount and a size and an offset. So that means that the offset is saying where in the world does the fractal live? Like where is it hanging out? And because it is able to move, we get the idea that the deformation is moving with it. Right? Because all effects, most effects, are frame specific, not layer specific.
Right.
So that means that the turbulent displace, even if I'm moving the layer around, it doesn't really care because it's relative to the frame.
Right.
I'm basically moving the window in which we see that effect.
That effect applied,
And so in this case, we've got an amount and a size that are changing. And what I've done is I've gone in here and I've linked those using the power of expressions, very powerful expressions.
Yeah, pick whip.
Whip it good. Crack that whip. Oh, man. So good. Yeah, we don't have enough Devo.
That's right. No,
material.
We're gonna try and bring in at least 4 more Devo references by day's end if we can.
Okay. Well, we're gonna dare to be stupid.
That's right.
We'll just rhyme them up. So these expressions are linking us to the layer that we've called glass control, which is the null. Right. So the null is changing its scale, and we're using that scale to change the amount of distortion.
Okay.
So that effect is when it's far away, when the scale over here is at 25%, it's distorting less.
Right, it's minimized, right?
Yeah, because it's far away. Sure. And then when we bring it closer to us, perceptibly closer, we're now at 130%. So the
40
amount
something percent.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's gone up. And really we're just pick whipping to part of the scale, specifically the first part of it. Doesn't really matter because it's uniform.
That's right.
And then just dividing that number by 3. And the 3 is where we say, how distorty is this, right? So we could do like a 7, we could do like a 5, we could do like a 1. So it really depends. Right. But when it gets too distorted, you can see this kind of weird, it doesn't quite make sense down there, right? Which is kind of where this can fall apart. So we just keep it nice and relaxed, and that works.
Now, Sarah was asking, could you have instead used map displacement for the distortion?
So we could use a displacement map effect. The reason I didn't is because Well, you know what? I can just show you why. You know what? I don't need to be hypothetical about this. Let us find the effects panel window. Starts with an E. There it is. And displacement map. So I'll just drag this out here. Boop. We won't look at the turbulent displace.
Right.
So the displacement map looks at a layer and says, hey, other layer, tell me what to do. I need some guidance. And so you would basically be taking black and white values, or maybe red-green values, whatever values you want.
Right.
But you would essentially be using a gradient to distort something else. Now, the reason I didn't do that is because this deals in the horizontal and vertical displacement.
Only.
Yeah, whereas the effect I'm trying to do is sort of a pinching or expanding.
It's size-based.
That's right,
Yeah.
the magnification. So on that note, though, maybe displacement map isn't your jam. You know, we've got a magnifying glass in here, so
That's right.
we could use magnify to do this as well.
Right.
So maybe magnify.
Because here you've got size and yep.
Yeah, and
scale.
And it's got a center that we can move around.
Right.
And so what we could do is we just sort of make sure that that's positioned where it needs to be.
And that's akin to the offset in the turbulent displays, right?
It is, and what's kind of nice about it is that it sort of makes logical sense to us, right? Like, this is a circular shaped thing. I'm going to put a circle where it needs to be.
Right.
Now, I wasn't super keen on the look that Magnify gets me. Right. Magnify would probably work on the bottom of the glass, right? Maybe that's like a big magnifying glass.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that liquid is more cylindrical, right? It's a cylindrical thing. Well, I'm glad we mentioned cylinders because we could just use the CC cylinder.
Right.
So
classic. That's right.
There are so many ways. There are so many ways to get to the same place. At the end of the day, though, I ended up choosing turbulent displace for a number of stylistic reasons and for ease of use reasons. That if we used CC cylinder, as wonderful as it is, you have to account for tipping of the cylinder and stuff like that. And I wasn't trying to be hyper realistic. I was trying to simplify, not simulate.
That's right.
And that's my tagline. If I had shirts, it would say that on it.
That's right. I think we established that that's a hashtag now. Simplify, not simulate. Yeah.
Simplify, don't simulate. Because really, if you wanted to simulate this, you could make a glass. You could make all kinds of distortion stuff. But that's stuff you can do. But the big choice we have to say is, all right, we've got the liquid distorting, right? And we've got things linked together. How much is the glass going to distort, right? We could have all of the glass being distorting, right? We could have the bottom distorting stuff. We could have the front, this part here, distorting stuff. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, let's just have the back of it do the distorting. Eventually, it's going to be so small that...
Right. So you did actually go through distorting all the different sort of planes to see what...
Yeah, I tried it out. I saw if I liked it.
And is that pretty common too, I think, where you sort of, all right, let's try all these things, kind of put them all on at once and
sometimes
pull back?
Because if you're dissatisfied with what you're seeing, then you can always add more. After Effects is also non-destructive, right? So if you do something to a layer, you think, maybe this is not quite right, duplicate it so you don't lose the thing you just did, and then mess around like, I didn't like it, and get rid of it.
Hide it or whatever.
Exactly.
Just delete it. Yep.
And sometimes people want to see alts, so that can be good. So the back wall distortion, and this is going to get into a little bit of shape layer stuff, is specifically taking up, what's the best way to look at this? This way, I suppose. No, that's not the best way to look at it. This way. There are certain patches of it that we do or do not want to be full of stuff. So, for example, if we wanted to say have only the front wall here doing the distorting, maybe that's what we want. Well, that means that we need to have a circle shape minus this other circle shape. So then we get into having a rectangle, a bottom circle, a merge paths, the top circle, more merge paths. So we're basically adding things and subtracting things, which can be kind of clunky, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But what it allows you to do is to have a front wall of this thing, if we wanted it, that would be visually distinct and could be applying, like in this case, we're just applying a tint with it.
Right.
And that's showing us there is a layer of glass here.
Right.
There is something rather than nothing there.
Right.
And just those little details can help bring the piece out more, like really show off what you're doing.
And just at a very simplistic level, it just kind of sells the glass itself, like what it is, really.
The glassness of the glass.
Right.
So
because you're not doing any texturing or you know any of that,
exactly. If
material additives there,
If we were in Cinema 4D, we would make
absolutely
we would make the thing, and then we would be tweaking a whole bunch of different types of values to create the refraction,
the illusion of the refraction.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's the secret sauce that goes into making this glass happen. Some other.
I noticed you took kind of a little sip there.
Yeah,
just a
taste,
little. Just a little taste right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all have vices, and drinking at the beach is fine.
That's right.
The other thing that's kind of going on in this scene is we've got some motion out of this leg back here that was I just threw it in there. Originally, the legs didn't do anything, and I was looking at it, and I was just thinking, well, I think it should do something. Shouldn't it? Yeah, why not? It's fine.
It's exercise.
Yeah, you gotta move around. You gotta stretch while you're
cardio right there.
Yeah, so that's a pretty simple thing to do. It's actually a fairly normal, just a bunch of shape layers here, just a bunch of beans that we have linked together, and then we just start at the beginning, go to the end state that we want, and just rotating, scaling, pushing things around, and that causes it to kind of look like the foot is coming towards us.
So this is fascinating. I want to point this out again because once again, before you just revealed the layers there, I'm going, there's that fluid motion that for me seems to be harder to achieve without a lot of temporal interpolation and messing about with easing and everything else.
Yeah.
But it's this combo of position, scale, rotation on each of those shape layers that adds to that fluidity.
And in this case, one of the things that is fairly important, if we do go into the graph editor, this is what the speed graph looks like.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like, I guess if we're saying, what is it not?
Right.
It's not that. Right, which is what a lot of people sometimes end up with, because they think, well, I should ease all of these.
Exactly.
Well,
they
should be eased.
Guilty right here. I absolutely, because I'm like, God, it just isn't smooth enough. All right, I'll ease in to this one, ease out of that one, and then you just get something that looks
unnatural.
Terrible. It's terrible. It's not even good.
It looks janky.
Janky.
People say that in this town?
Yeah. Right.
But the other thing that helps this happen is, again, we're not stacking up keyframes on top of each other in those big walls. So we've got, this thing's position is changing, which is the position changes on this foot are just to keep it attached to the ankle. Right. There's nothing super interesting going on with that one. The thigh, though, is really the driver. So we start with that. And its rotation here, it's rotating, and it's got these other little rotations happening. So it's coming up, and then it's coming down a little bit. So with this one, this is what its graph looks like, which is, it's smooth, like it feels smooth when we watch it. The graph editor, though, isn't really showing us a lot of smoothness. What it's showing us is we're maintaining velocity as we continue. And what happens if you just go ahead and ease everything is that the velocity is dropping to zero.
Sure, of course.
And throughout a motion, you're a person who works out a lot. You know that throughout any kind of movement, you're having acceleration in different planes.
That's right.
To cause shoulder injuries, I guess.
But
but in this case, it's just we want to kind of touch it up. And we start at one place, we know where we're going to end, then we go into the middle and start pushing things around.
And that's a great tip, too, to actually just focus more on sort of that constant velocities, up or down, but you don't want that going to a 0 value. That's what kind of breaks that fluidity.
When it sits. Like
Right. It should never really park, because you're right. If you're moving your leg, again, unless you're a robot,
yep.
it doesn't really stop. It's sort of, it might slow down, it can decelerate, but
So, in this case, basically all we're doing is just making some beans, making sure the beans overlap each other. You know, bean parts. We'll do more bean parts.
I keep laughing every time you say beans.
It's beans of funny. So something funny about beans?
It's the Frank or the beans. That's all I can hear. I'm sorry.
So this,
It's another movie reference there.
the idea is that we've got motion like on the shin here. This is just easy eased, right?
Yep.
Nothing more to it. Its position is a little bit stranger, but overall, if we take a step back, the whole curve is starting at no acceleration, ending at no acceleration, big hump in the middle. And
that's because it's kind of the connector between the two extremities, right? So its motion can be different, because it's really it's a joint,
and it's not going to have as much going on because the driver here is taking it for a ride.
Yeah.
The big thing about perspective, though, is that this thing, the shin, needs to be scaling down a bit, because it is further away from us. So even though the thigh needs to scale up because it's getting closer to us, the shin and foot still need to maintain their smallness. And that is one of the things that makes this helpful. So the other thing that is fun to do in these situations is, you'll notice I'm animating this from 1 second to 3 seconds. Pretty fun. But in this space, I'm using time remapping to have the leg come up and then go down. So you pre-compose things, time remap them, and if your movement is nice and smooth, but just not quite as you like, enjoy your time remapping when you can ease those. So now it's eased even more.
And here it makes sense, because you are coming to you're easing the stopping position of everything, So it makes sense to have it there.
And I mean, if we're talking about why have one type of motion rather than another, why is it eased and relaxed instead of herky and jerky? Well, it's because we're at the beach and we're chilling out. So sometimes you will want rigid and unpleasant motion, right? Because if it's like a horror type thing, it has a lot of staccato jerkiness to it. So that's another thing to do. The graph editor is not a tool to smooth keyframes. The graph editor is a tool to control keyframes. So we do have a need to go along with the trend for things to be very smooth and very fluid and have high acceleration and then coasting in. But you don't have to. Maybe the next thing will be something else. But when we're talking about loops, the idea that we have to end the way we started, time remapping can really help you do that. So rather than,
because that gets you back into that default state.
And rather than animating leg up, leg down, we just do it once, we run it in reverse. You could choose, like, if we were going to say, well, the leg's going to do something weird, it's going to go back differently than it came, then you would probably double your effort and do more things. But this allows you to do less stuff. Now with time remapping, you can have the leg go up and down all kinds of times.
And no one's going to say, oh, that's the same motion but just reversed.
Exactly.
It doesn't look good. That's just not going to happen.
And if that's the case, you can go into your time remapping here and say, well, now it's eased on this. It's eased on its way down, right? So what do you think about that?
Like you're pushing your heel through the sand.
Exactly. So
there's a ramp.
Yeah, you can build up that kind of stuff using the time remap. So that is the thing. What other fun layers of stuff are going on in this
Steve
scene?
loves there's so much going. He says, it's a lot to my eyes. Something so simple has so much concept. Love it. Yeah. It's so cool, man.
Yeah, sometimes the things that appear the most simple and obvious are the ones that kind of have a lot behind them. Like when you look at some like logo design and stuff like that, you look at, that's just a circle. Come on, like, oh, but you didn't think of the circle, did you? These things do take an amount of consideration. Let's see. Oh, these the lines on the sun I think are kind of fun. These things in the water. Again, this is a pro tip for being very lazy. When we look at what's going on in here, there are a lot of interesting things that people are doing with sort of line style.
Right.
And one of the challenges of working with sort of uniform stroke lengths or working with a style that we want to have all of these lines here, all of these strokes, have the right caps at the end.
Right.
You could, in this way, what I did here is we've just drawn a path. So we draw one path, and then we put the repeater on it. And the repeater repeats. So we have 7 copies of this one line.
Right.
And all of those are being merged together. So we're saying, hey, all of you repeated lines, you are now a thing. You're a unit. Then we make a nice triangle, and we put this triangle around everything, also a shape layer. We could, after you've done your repeater, you come in with a mask.
I was gonna say you could also mask it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We could mask it. We could do all sorts of stuff like that. Like instead of the way we've done it, if we went with a mask, and I'm just gonna solo this so that we can observe this and only this. We could go with a mask for sure, and what that would do in order to draw a mask is you just have to click this little button up here. Something that a lot of people don't do is combine shapes and masks, but you just click over here and now you're drawing a mask instead. So if I drew a little mask around this, what we end up with though is that hard line of the mask, which is not great because we want to retain the layer style, right?
Right.
We want those butt caps.
Right,
those
and
rounded caps.
even if you feathered it, you'd also now you're manipulating the butt caps.
Well, now we're getting feathered lines,
butt
and that's
caps.
a different thing, right? We don't want that.
We don't. Well, no.
Maybe you do want
I did right.
Look, in your world.
In your world, in your utopia,
If
that
you
may
want
be,
feathered strokes, you go nuts.
that's up to you.
So then we just draw a triangle out there. We do the merge paths to say intersect. So we're saying wherever this triangle is, that is where we'll see it.
Right.
Now, the reason I ended up going this route is because for some reason I was thinking I kind of want the water to shimmer and wave around. Wouldn't that be beautiful at the
Yes.
beach? So how we would perceive that would be these lines not being in a uniform triangle. They would be in an undulating wave of some kind. So to do that, we could go in here, we could take our pen tool or our convert vertex tool, and we could just, hey, look at this. We could make this, and we could animate this waving back and forth. We could do that. Totally fine to do that. Or we could add a group in here, stick our path in the group, and this is because you need to kind of control your hierarchies a little bit.
Yeah.
So in this group, we can now add in, because things we put in this group won't affect things outside the group. Right?
Okay. More native effects, pucker and bloat.
That's right. And these are, rather than effects, these are deformers.
Deformers, right. Yep.
Now, what's fun about these is we could drop a wiggle paths on here, and the wiggle paths is applying sort of the wiggly that we all love.
Right.
But look what's happening.
Right.
Oh, dang.
Oh, dang.
It's shimmering.
Not the anticipated behavior there.
Well,
Maybe,
it's,
but yeah.
I mean, I anticipated it because
You did
I'm
because yes.
familiar
but
with it.
Yes.
It's
as
tough.
our watchers are watching. Yes.
I mean, it is hard to kind of conceive of what's happening because we've got these lines.
Right.
If we just drop a fill in here, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense, I think. No. You know what? I'll have to put it somewhere inside the group. We'll do that another time.
Yeah.
But the point is that because we're deforming this triangle,
Right.
then it's the container.
That's
So-
right.
So now it kind of looks like shimmering water.
Right.
It's a little bit nuts and all over the place because we have not massaged the wiggle path to be what we would like. We can just chill it down a little
That's
bit
right.
like that. And you could also, if you wish, just expand the triangle so that it doesn't have as many strange things bumping
Gaps,
into each
holes,
other.
yeah.
Yeah. But hey, look at that.
Yeah. That actually looks very realistic.
It's shimmering water.
It is shimmering.
And as realistic or unrealistic as it may be, it's very simple, a combination of very simple elements put together cleverly. So yeah, that's how we can get the water. I mean, the suns are just circles, not much to write home about there. And then finally, to sort of cap the thing off, like I said, we threw a CC lens over top of the whole thing.
Right.
And anytime you kind of want to just bend the whole frame a little bit, just to make it seem a little bit more fisheye-like, this is an effect to go with. A lot of the times we see people go purely shape layers, when we go heavy into effects. A subtle combination of both of them can really get you the looks you're after. And it doesn't have to be, effects don't have to be huge changes. A lot of people use effects like a, it's the one-click solution to making something cool, So, well, I need to make some kind of a cool thing. I got some particular. I'll drop that.
Right. Very popular choice for that very thing. Yeah.
Or I need to fill in a motion background. How about I just drop some plexus in here, and then it just fills it up with some garbagios. But it's
in the early 2000s, my go-to for every text thing was Trapcode Shine.
Good.
Just put Trapcode Shine on every piece of text ever created, and it'll be awesome.
And then it'll work out.
It kind of was.
Yeah. So that I think is all of the things that I think are sort of clever about this scene.
Right.
I really only want to tell you guys about the clever stuff because the audience on here is pretty sharp. I'll be honest. The folks here, they got the basics down.
Right. Oh,
so let's go on to perhaps bubble riding. Everybody likes riding in a bubble.
Very nice.
So
Sarah says she needs more free time to play. Yes. So much cool stuff.
That's the one crisis everybody has, is that I don't have enough time for all the things that I find interesting.
Hey, now, by the way, so now a couple people were asking, and I was going to say they're asking about how they can learn more about expressions. I was going to say, now, I just did a series on creating graphics templates in After Effects on our Creative Cloud YouTube channel, which you can find, perhaps some of you are watching along there. It's called How to Make Good Videos Great with Motion Graphics Templates, and I do some very basic, including the wiggle expression, bounce. There's a couple others that I go into, the loop back expression, real simple classic ones. But I imagine you must have many a video, many a tutorial on
if you go,
expressions.
Go to the EC Abrams tutorial channel. We talk about a bunch of those things on YouTube.
You can say it loudly.
Oh, sorry, that's the EC Abrams YouTube channel. It's a hot plug there. But if you're asking about how do I become proficient in expressions? Yeah, I use the term fluent because it's a language, right?
Very
the only way you get better at a language is by speaking it, by conversing with it. Unfortunately, your conversation is with a computer, so it's not the best conversation partner. But the only way you get better is by starting small and adding elements. So having that firm understanding of syntax, of grammar, and those language concepts, but also kind of programming concepts, because the way you structure things, what does an expression mean when I read it? All these things are important. And
the commenting after the fact, right? So as a reminder for yourself, coming back to it later. Yeah.
And sort of testing things is useful in expressions, like to put the wiggle in. To use the wiggle, and the two arguments of the wiggle, and when we say arguments, those are the two things in the brackets. So getting down with that kind of nomenclature and that kind of thing is pretty helpful. So it's it'll get you there, because we use a bunch of loop outs to make this a nice big looping animation, and we're using loop outs in this particular scene in order to convey the idea of constant travel. So like the background mountains, that's a loop. It's just cruising by, looping it. The foreground kind of cliff edge here, also just a continually looping thing. We're watching a piece that is 6 seconds long. And because it's 6 seconds long, we know a few things about math, that if we have something that loops every 3 seconds, we'll see it twice during this time. If we have something that loops every 2 seconds, we'll see it 3 times in this time, right? So what does that mean for this scene? Well, it means that I produce some motion. These are those floating crystals. This is where they ended up. Yeah. They're just kind of whizzing by. Whee! Look at us whizzing by. We're going. And all they are a bunch of little shape layers, and we've got their time remap because they are doing something themselves, and we are cycling their position as they whiz by. We're looping out. You can loop in as well, but I'm really just duplicating them and sliding them along like this and sort of populating the spaces that I want with them. And I'm sort of creating these layers of the crystals out there. So I'm saying, well, there's a back set of them. Like these guys are the far away ones. We got the medium ones.
And then the foreground.
Yeah, in the foreground, these two are closer. So they just take a little longer to get where they're going, but they're all doing the exact same thing. So the guys in the background are taking the longest, and so we perceive that because these objects are probably all the same, we could assume that those ones are further away because they're smaller. The other thing is that they have less detail on them. That's another fun little trick. So by having this guy in the foreground that has detail on it, and ones in the background that have some detail, and ones even further back that have no detail, I'm telling you, these things are far away. I'm using all the visual cues to tell you these things are far away. And they convey the sense of motion, the sense of moving along constantly. Now, another thing that conveys an idea of motion is what the Bubble Man is doing themselves.
The Bubble Man.
Beware the Bubble Man.
Beware the Bubble Man.
This might be a deep cut. You ever see the show The Prisoner?
Oh, yeah.
In which the man is chased by a terrible bubble that kills him somehow or just drugs him.
More family fun.
Yeah, that's good family viewing. So the bubble, what the bubble is doing, let's see, bubble is this one. So things that are changing about the bubble are that we got the anchor point, which is moving. We got a position change, and we got a scale change. So the anchor point I have linked up to whatever value it is, which in this case is 0, and then I'm using a math.sine expression. Now, what does math.sine do? Well, it creates a sine wave. So let's observe that sine wave now. If you click on this little icon here, show post-expression graph, it'll show you a graph of what you have created with the expression. And so what I was trying to do, a sine wave is a nice natural kind of up-down kind of thing.
Continuous fluid motion.
Exactly. And using the power of math, you could do this with keyframes too if you want. But for me, I was like, you know what? Let's show them about a sine wave while I'm here. The sine wave can be really useful when you want a consistent, smooth, and repeatable kind of action. And in this case, because the wave repeats at regular intervals, we're able to do something to say, well, this is 6 seconds long. I need the sine wave to line up. I need it to be at the same spot here as here. And
which in audio would be your 0 crossing as it approaches that center line there.
Exactly. And here, what I'm doing is we're saying math.sine, and then inside its arguments, we're saying time, so the time it currently is, so like at this point it's 3, times the effect slider control, which I'm using for a little bit of manual control over the wave, and then multiplying all that by 100 at the end, which gives us the size, the amplitude that we want. But the reason we have the slider control in here is because if this were a 1, we end up with a wave that isn't lining up on the 6
Interesting.
second
Yeah.
mark, right?
So the loop will be flawed.
Yeah,
basically,
it'll
right?
be it'll have a little, like we talked about earlier,
That's
about a
right.
thing we can totally live with.
That's right, because it's stylistic now.
I
but
can't live with
that's
it.
right. Very particular. That's
But
right.
I have full control over this world, so why not, just touch that up? And so just tapping the little slider control in here, putting that little tweak in, and really the time that I need it to return to normalcy, to that 0, isn't at 6 seconds. It needs to be there the frame after 6 seconds, because the frame after is the first frame.
It's the first frame of where it needs to loop.
Yeah.
back.
So I think that's where people sometimes stumble the most with looping things, is that there is that the same frame twice.
Right.
Because
Right.
the first and last frames should be the same.
Right.
No, they are the exact same frame in that one is the other. You need to delete one of them.
That's right.
So you end up with that kind of situation. Yeah. So we're making the anchor point go up and down, which has the effect of having the layer move around the anchor point up and down. So I'm doing that because I also want to mess around with the position. So it's logical to say, well, if I want the bubble to go up and down, I will do the position to make it go up and down. But because I know in the future I also want to alter the position here, then I need to leave the position available for me to mess around with it. Another thing you could do is drop in like a null layer and have it do some things.
Do something.
So, and then you can have like overlapping movement of keyframes. We've got this overlapping with this, and the final element here is having some scale that happens so that it looks like the bubble, even without the person in the bubble, makes it look like the bubble is coming towards and drifting away,
kind of drifting and floating, and
playfully dancing like a leaf on the wind. And it's once we've got the bubble going, we can make some content, stick it in the bubble, and then
it all comes together.
Exactly.
And it is now time for some random giveaway hype. That's right, we are at the top of the hour here. Thank you again for joining us at Adobe Live here at behance.net/live. And we need to hear your voices in the chat. Let us know that you are here, because our Gus bot is going to pick a winner. And you will be the recipient of some prints.
Yeah, make
some
yourself
awesome
known.
Prints.
Get
Not
active.
The recipient of prints, just to be clear. CE, but prints. Prints. Printed imagery.
Not prints of prints, I'm afraid.
Not prints of prints.
No.
We don't have the license to do that. GusBot is my best bot. You are so right, Mitch. I'm not afraid to say it. I love GusBot. He's right over there.
And yeah, like in the chat, let us know where you're from. Let us know what you do. Let us know about yourself and what you intend to do with the amazing things you learn here.
Yeah.
So get to
Oh yeah. Thank you, Gus.
share yourself with us in the chat.
Miguel, no shame at all. Gimme, 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 gimme. I love it.
Oh, man.
Charles, Evan explains things so well to us. He does. I told him today, and I emphasized this when we were talking, and I meant to say it. You're not only getting the how here, but you're really getting a lot of the why. And this is just one of the many values of what we, I think, really bring to Adobe Live and having guests like yourselves here, is that you're getting all of the detail, even among some of these, as you said, very simple things. But this is the difference. This is what up-levels your game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like two designers can end up creating very similar output. The one that ultimately seems to succeed better or communicates better is the one that has a lot more thought kind of put into it.
Right.
So it's really important to have that consideration, make those choices, make conscious choices. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say there aren't happy accidents in design.
Right.
But when in motion design, because you're putting in so much labor and so many hours, happy accidents are sometimes few and far between.
Right.
So,
Understandable.
If you're on a deadline, you can't hope for an accident. You can't, hope that the muses will touch you with the gift.
The gift that you're requesting from them at that moment.
Exactly.
All right, and our winner is Sarah Baquette. Sarah Baquette, congratulations.
Woo-hoo.
You have won the print.
Now you'll have some tasteful
prints.
artwork to display on your walls.
Tasteful artwork to display on your walls. Greetings, Darina from Bulgaria. Animator by education, artist by soul. Oh, that's a lovely line. That should be in your Twitter if it isn't already. And again, thank you. We're with Evan for approximately another 50 minutes, and you've got approximately 26 minutes to make your submissions. So again, we've got another giveaway in about 45 minutes or so.
That's right.
We've got a contest going on. So as I saw Val mention, please go to the contest tab here, or you can just check out the rules at be.net/live, be.net/live, and create something. Become part of it.
Yeah,
we're going to show them here.
Show us your stuff. We will judge them.
We will judge. Does it make you laugh when you say stuff like that? We will judge them. We will judge.
You have come to our court to be judged.
You will be.
No, we'll critique, which is better than judging.
That's a far better word choice. Yeah.
I mean, every critique is subjective, but
of course. And again, congratulations, Sarah. Thank you for being here. You got to be present to win. So thank you all who stuck around. And of course, after Evan, we've got the one, the only Christine Herron up with Kathleen in approximately an hour. So you'll want to be sure to stick around for that as well.
Maker of a beautiful shirt.
Maker of the Put Your Pants On shirt, which is a song of mine that you can access today on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, or wherever music is streamed or sold.
Plugs for everyone.
Plugs for everyone, that's right. Put your pants on, because your daddy told you. All right, that is the tagline. Okay.
Speaking of pants, let's segue into this person in the bubble.
Nice.
Who is just a silhouetted kind of person undulating around in the bubble. You know, they're not frantically flailing. They're having a nice chill hang.
As you would in a bubble in Utopia.
That's right.
2079 or whenever this is.
Exactly.
By the way, love the aspect ratio of this too.
Yeah, this really long thing.
Yeah,
so
really super cool.
Where this comes from is we talked yesterday about assembling your patchwork, your mosaic of stuff.
Right.
So the space that this needs to occupy is long, thin.
Right.
And we have many that are long, thin. We have tall, thin. We have sort of regular size looking things. Right. We have square things. So depending on what you're gonna, how you're gonna fit it into like a mosaic or where it's gonna go, you don't have to always work in the 16 by 9, kind of format. It's
well, that's important to understand too, right? I mean, this is not. I don't even know what this aspect is. It's like 7 to 1 or something. I don't know.
Crazy town.
Some crazy towns.
8 to 1.
8 to 1. All right, I was close.
Pretty close.
Eyeballing it there, but yeah. So I mean, but it makes sense, and because you're not occupying all of that, are you actually? You have a bit of that not masked, but it's overlapping inside the final mosaic.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So we don't end up using all of this.
A lot on the sides.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have as much as we need to just in case we decide later, well, that panel needs to be longer or it needs to have a more playful way of coming on.
You've already got it, so there's stuff happening.
Yeah. So this is kind of a concept that I recommend people consider and work with is having the extra space, having the flexibility to change. So often the flexibility comes from time in that, let's say you're working with some footage or you're making a comp that's a certain length. You're like, well, I've made it exactly the size and duration I require. And then later you think, oh, I need to resize that. And then you have to go back and you have to do so much other work. If you build things so that you are able to flex them later, then that's going to be better for you. It's going to save you time in the long run, and it'll help you to massage your composition to get it exactly perfect.
Nice.
So, yeah, so this falling person is a little bit of character animation that's going on. I like simple silhouettes of people, and as you can see, here they are, just tumbling away, and they're clearly on the tumbler.
Now, was this just drawn freely, or I'm very curious.
So the process that got me here was, I'll be honest with you, I'm not great at drawing. Okay. I'm a bad drawer, which is why I
could have fooled me.
Well, but, the fooling continues.
Right.
So I knew, well, this has to be, with regular human proportions. It's not going to be super stylistic. It's going to be normal. Why don't I just base this off of a person, right?
Why not? I mean, we got to go with some kind of creature. Might as well use a human.
Yeah, a human.
Human.
So what you can do, and I like to do this often is we go to the Adobe stock panel up here in your libraries.
We didn't even pay for this. I love it. I love it.
And so you just think of a thing you want to see, and you type it in. You could use like Google image search or whatever, but this is right here.
Yeah, it's in the app.
Right
You don't have
here.
to leave, right? And that's, again, that is kind of the key.
Yeah.
You know, for any, there's many stock options out there. This is there.
This is
it's
right
integrated. You can grab the preview immediately.
Yeah.
It's just there for you.
So what I think we might do is make this person from scratch, and
Okay,
we'll go
cool.
through that. So originally, I think it was falling. I remember someone there falling off their desk and like becoming covered in coffee. It's this. I used this one, which has kind of a horrifying idea to it. That
There it is, right?
yeah, that this person is falling backwards in this big arc of coffee, but.
That's hilarious.
But what I liked about it was this crouched up thing, right? Like I can
Half
imagine
fetal going on there.
exactly like when you're riding in a bubble, it should feel like a return to the womb. And so this is sort of the idea that this person is
It's very
crouched.
utopian there
I
too.
I liked where their arms were, like that had a good splayed out
Right.
kind of deal. And so I was like, let's base it off of that. But for ours, we could work off of anything that we like. So if we go, there was a falling person in the previous one that looked very funny. That's a more painful kind of fall.
That's right.
You know.
Piso Mojado right there.
Oh boy, falling person. So if we went with something like, we got the madman falling kind of look.
Yeah.
Let's go with this dude. Let's make him do the thing. So we can just take this guy, click, drag, drop it over here,
Yeah, so easy.
and then we're gonna turn that, put it on a new composition. Here's the guy falling. Now we said before, make sure you have space around the thing.
Right.
Make sure you have that visual space. So you would probably either increase the composition size or scale this person down a little bit. I recommend always making things bigger than you think you'll need them.
Right.
So this comp here is it's like 1,000 by 7 something. How it gets used is very tiny, like
Right.
a super tiny thing here, and you don't lose much by shrinking something.
Right.
You will lose things by
blowing
stretching
up,
them.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
by having to create that pixel information. Now we're working with shape layers and stuff, so
Not really an issue anyway.
that's
but,
right. You can just collapse transformations and enjoy the full fidelity.
full fidelity at any size,
Exactly.
up or down, right?
Yeah, but as an old habit, as if we were to work with pixely things,
Right.
if we were to drop a bunch of effects in here, we would want the flexibility.
Right.
So, with this in mind, let's increase the size of the composition a little bit. There we go. And now we can start working. So I made the person out of beans, which we've talked about beans before. And really, what I'm going to make them out of is just all single color. Just kind of putting bright colors out there, roughing the stuff in. These things don't really need strokes on them. And I'm just going to make a combination of circles and lines. So make it a circle. So a wonderful circle here. Maybe the circle is this big, and this thing is going to have 2 ellipses in it. Duplicate that. Now we got a second ellipse going on. So let's position this thing where it should go. So we could start maybe with the shoulder. We get the shoulder going. And we're going to go from the shoulder out to the elbow. That's our first segment.
Right.
If you want to be lazy, you can go ahead and do the whole arm as a piece, but I wanted the individual moving. I also didn't put hands on because hands are creepy.
Well, and we know in cartoons they always have 4 fingers, and your Utopia they are fingerless.
That's right. Everyone loses their hands when they come to Utopia. It's scary.
Maybe it's like a Wonder Twin thing. Form of.
Oh, yeah.
Multi-fingered hand segment. You know.
I can turn into a type of water. I can turn into the color blue.
Oh yeah, sorry. Shape of, form of. It's always like slate.
They-
The water one.
What a wild series of powers.
Right?
Don't.
Are you a fan of Teen Titans Go at all?
I think that's a fun program.
I like Teen Titans. I know there's a lot of it's scary on the interwebs sometimes with Teen Titans Go, because Teen Titans, very stylized, sort of anime style, and then they did the Teen Titans Go variation, which is very cartoony and silly, but super fun. And there's an episode recently that talks about this very thing. That's what I brought that up.
I think the writing is fun. I think the animation is fun.
I think it's fun too.
I think their team is doing. They're capturing some real frenetic and really interesting way of things kind of moving around.
Yes, totally.
They play with the form of a cartoon. Like, you're aware, the show is aware of what it is. That's all the time.
Almost breaking scene, talking to camera style. You know,
which I think is kind of advanced for a kids show.
I think it's very advanced for a kids show. And it makes it fun watching kids watch it too.
That's right. So
Beast Boy is talking to me.
Right. So we've got this arm segment, right? So we should name our arm segments. We should name them things like bicep or whatever. This is the sort of thing that you might use like rubber hose for as well. Right. That might be a thing. But I don't want noodle arms this time. I want those solid arms. Like we want them to be a little bit more rigid. So we've got a bicep part, and now we're going to give ourselves the other part of the arm. So in order to make that happen, we just kind of line it up. When you're lining stuff up like this, you might play with the opacities here so that you can actually kind of see things through each other. Right. That can be helpful. You know, working with things that are visually easy to work with, but are not necessarily the final form that they're going to take in terms of color and stuff. So once we kind of kick this stuff around, and we're getting it close, like we're not exactly matching the person, we're getting close to matching where the person is, where their posture is, all that stuff. And we're doing this just so, because we're going to use their silhouette only. So a lot of the details are going to be lost anyway.
Oh, nice.
So this would be like the forearm, and then we would link these things together. So the forearm is, of course, linked to the bicep. So if the bicep is moving, then the forearm also moving. So cool. That makes sense, right? And so it could go around like that. So this person probably has another arm. It's way back there. Right. We can't see it super good because of the angle.
Sure, right.
The one limitation of this kind of paper puppet,
it's because of construction here.
Yeah. Exactly,
and 2D construction.
Yeah, right. The thing we lose is that ability to kind of have the arm bend towards us or away from us. Right. You can do it with scale if you would like, so that kind of gets it a little bit close. But these things are not fully realized 3D things, because that's not what you need here. Right. I saw in the chat, so I was like, why aren't you just doing this in Cinema 4D? Like, well, you can do anything in Cinema 4D if you want, right? Like what we're doing is we're interested in this line and gradient style, which is way easier and quicker to achieve here. If someone is super, super proficient, if they're very proficient in one tool rather than another, like, put the screw in with a hammer. What do I care, right? Like if you prefer to put screws in with hammers, go nuts. But you know the expression, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
That's right.
And After Effects is a garage of tools to play with. And Cinema 4D is a wonderful tool to play with. In my garage, I have a regular drill, got an impact drill. They have different uses for different things. You don't always need to go grab the impact hammer to make things happen. So yeah, we're making the tube arms here. We are able to duplicate these chains of tube arms and kind of move them over so that we can have like his other arm that might be going back there.
Nice.
So what we want to do is just kind of move.
And I'll tell you what, while you're doing that, if we could switch over to my screen. So we've got our first submission coming in from Laura Triana. Utopians, welcome to Music Life Jams. So here's our first submission for today, and we're going to review the ones from yesterday as well. Just check this out. Oh, nice. We got a band, keyboard, some congas, some guitar. I like it. Laura has kind of embodied some of your creature style. Oh, you've actually got a nice, playing like a clave on the congas there. Very, very realistic.
See, that's good internal, the internal consistency.
I'm looking right there, and I'm seeing it. Nice job, Laura.
It's accurate. That research pays off.
Fretting on the neck, all these little subtle things. You're right. I mean, hands are moving very.
It's the kind of thing where like the little details tell you what it is and what it means. Like how much detail do you need to know what to identify that instrument, right?
That's right.
Well, it's where the skin meets the top of the drum, right?
That's right.
That's what tells you what it is.
What I love about the kunga playing as well is that this is a very bizarre reference as you continue to move on, and we can go back to his screen, Chris. Is that T-Rex, the band T-Rex, circa 1972, had a bongo and/or sometimes kunga player, and it's typical with when you have two kungas that you tap. So you're creating some kind of a clave, but it is that kind of. And that's referenced here. And if you watch early 70s T-Rex videos, you're going to see that guy is just sort of... which is not how you play bongos or congas. He was very successful. His name was Mickey Finn, but it was always interesting to watch because he never did that. It was always...
Well,
he makes sounds and references to random things.
That's right.
Dana Pride, love T-Rex. Oh, nice.
Good. We got some T-Rex fans in the house.
Get it on. Bang a gong, get it on.
So we've got lots of person parts here. It's coming together. And we have to kind of decide what kind of things we want the person to do, and that can impact the choices we make in constructing them. So in this case, there are some movements that I want this person to show. And one of the movements I want them to show is going to be sort of rotating a little bit. So not just rotating on its existing plane, but to rotate sort of three-dimensionally.
Okay.
And we would show that, just like we did with the glass, we would show three-dimensional rotation through sort of the distance that the hips and shoulders are to each other.
Okay.
So, in order to accomplish such a thing, what we'd be doing, we've got these legs, and the sizes of the legs are kind of telling you one is closer than the other. What we will do is we'll make a new null object. We'll just call that null object like hip space, and we are going to...
Not to be confused with hipster space, just hipster.
That's the space that you know to avoid.
That's right.
Look, I turned 30 yesterday, so I know I'm not hip anymore.
Trumpeting, yes.
we know.
Come on now.
We know I'm not cool enough to hang out in cool places.
No, get out of here.
So we're going to take the thigh layers. So this is the thigh layer. This is a thigh layer, and those layers are going to be parented to the hip space, and when we parent them, you can hold down Shift and it'll snap them right to it, or you can just pick whip it and nothing different will change about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to just set their positions to be 0 and 0, so they're right on top of the hips.
Okay.
And what we want to do is we want them to, if we are to rotate, then they should both move away from their center at like an equal speed, right? So I could take like a slider control or something, but what I'll do is I will take the position of one of them and I'll just keyframe it a little bit so that we know what we want. So they're kind of moving apart. Let's say this much. And the other one I want to react. I want to make as few keyframes as possible. So I'll ask this thigh to react to that one. So I'll say, you are now pick whipped to that, and now multiply yourself by -1, which will cause it to go in the opposite direction. So they are moving, right?
Yeah.
He's like skydiving with his buns up. It's doing real good. And then we can just rotate it a little bit.
It's really nice.
So, he's going. So, now he's kind of subtly rotating there, right? What other parts does the body need? I think he needs like a torso kind of deal.
I know, torso is probably a good idea.
Some people like torsos.
Some people.
I'm not, I'm not here to say that.
As a long torsoed male. Were we talking about that yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, which part of the body do you think is the most attractive? My own torso, thank you.
We had some very odd conversations coming into the studio yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, universally, everybody thinks that a long torso is the ideal, right? So yeah, we've got the guy's hips kind of moving apart based on where this null is. Now that's also fun because we can, as they're moving apart, we could have them also rotate, because this is controlling the rotation of both of them, or we could have them individually rotate. So again, we're putting some more layers of complexity on, just so that he's doing a little bit more than just rotating. So as you can see, that's a little bit more of a complex thing that he's doing. And what we would do is, right now we've got them in that wall of stuff. We don't really want them in a wall. We do want them to loop. So
now, I'm just curious, did you have this much motion in the final version?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
We don't see a lot of it because we're very far away.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
But look at everything they're doing. They're kicking around.
And to your point, because it's living in there so small, I mean, you're seeing the bubble come towards you. You're seeing the diamond shape crystals.
Imagine. Well, we don't have to imagine too hard what it would be like
we can actually
they weren't.
That's right.
Like, what I could do is I could just go layer time freeze frame, right? So we don't have to see them moving. When they're static, that's not as good, right? It's not as fun.
No.
And it's not as utopic.
No. And now that we're looking at it this way, it looks unfinished. It looks something is missing. Because that wouldn't be the case, especially as you're kind of moving briskly.
Yeah. You're having a good time.
Right.
Woo,
Body's not going to be still.
Exactly. So what we're going to do, we could just put on real quick some rotations on the shins and on the thighs here, just so that everything has some rotation going on. Get something for the shins as well. Yeah, let's do that.
Not to be confused with the band.
At a certain point, all things are
all
banned.
things are for the shins, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put loop out expressions on each of these. We're going to be doing a loop out cycle on all of them, and that's going to go on every single one of them, every single thing. And you might be saying, well, Evan, that seems a little bit silly. Why are you looping those out? Aren't you just going to loop this person's animation anyway? Right? Well, what loop out is going to allow me to do, so here, I'll just ease these as well. Give them a little easing. So maybe we should also, there we go, we'll look at only these.
Right, yeah.
So right now we've got that wall of keyframes that I talked about, right? So this is not super great. What I want to do is I want to start offsetting things.
Right.
It's things, so like the idea that the thigh rotation would happen before the shin rotation. So we can make that kind of a thing. So now that's kind of set up. So now those aren't totally lined up. Getting a little bit more organic.
That's right.
Now, we shouldn't have both legs go at the same time. So because they're looping out, I can just kick this back in time a little bit.
Right.
And now the legs are kind of independently flailing around. So these kind of offsets, we do need them all to kind of terminate and loop so that they are looping at the same time. But not having them stacked up on top of each other, you can see right here a perfect example of the difference between having things stacked or not stacked. And in this case, it's so much more organic when they are just, I just bumped them by like 3 frames.
Right,
There's not a lot to it.
No, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And the motion feels so real.
And so we've got the legs. We could go through and do the rest of the torso stuff, but I know we are tight on time today. So the other thing about this silhouette person that I really enjoyed is this gradient that I got on them.
Yeah.
Now, the gradient helps us with a few things. It helps us delineate back parts from foreground parts, right? It helps us know that while this arm is on top of the body, that it's separate and distinct from the body.
That's right.
And the way we can do that is, let's see, I'll just grab these and put the opacity up for all of those. So right now, hard to tell where one leg starts and the other ends, right? They're just kind of a nebulous mess. we can do something fun, like add a new adjustment layer, and which are the back legs, and these are the front legs, so we'll put them in front. Put an adjustment layer here, and where's my effects window? I keep losing.
You keep losing it.
I keep misplacing my effects. Oh, it's way down here.
It's docked somewhere down there? Yeah, there it is.
So what I want is a gradient ramp. We apply the gradient ramp here. And now the leg has a gradient to it. Yep. And we could just put the start here, end over here. And this is creating that gradient. And kind of ends at the butt zone. And we're going to have this.
By the way, worth pointing out that gradient ramp, one of the more recently GPU accelerated effects in After Effects CC.
And it didn't get a lot of press about it.
Correct.
But
although I showed it quite a bit on various live streams.
Exactly. Yeah. But like when you look at the consciousness that people are not like, dang, gradient ramp.
Right.
These effects that get so much use, like the gradient ramp, like the Gaussian blur,
right.
Like you use them so much, you end up using a lot of them.
Right.
That acceleration is great, and it helps just make things work out smoother.
Right.
So it's definitely a much appreciated by me. Even if other people aren't telling you they appreciate it, I want everyone here to know that I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear it too. I know, and that's the funny thing is we were joking on another live stream that we had someone else who had been in a few weeks before on a motion live stream here, and I was saying, the gradient ramp and a couple of those other ones, and yes. Like, gradient ramp, GPU accelerated. Game changer.
Yeah.
Press release on that alone. All right, I'll tell you what, while you're continuing to add some gradients there, 1 second, Chris, let's go back to my screen just to show now we're just about out of time. Now really, your time is up, but we want more submissions. So we're gonna give you a couple more minutes to get those submissions in. Let's take a quick look at the ones from yesterday, just to kind of give y'all some inspiration here. And we've got about 13 more minutes until we're going to review today's submissions and then pick our winner. And then we will be joined by Kathleen and the one and only Christine Heron, whose design shirt I am wearing today. Put your pants on, Christine. I mean, her pants are on. I mean, just just reading the.
We keep it clean here in the studio.
Not because your daddy told you. That's not trying to be inappropriate or anything. It's just the lyric of the song for children. Again, this was designed by Christine. And what was so amazing about Christine, too, is I'd said to her, I said, it's for this children's show, children's song. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of like that. And I think that was exactly what I did. And you just did this one take. It was awesome. And this is the very shirt that we printed together at an offsite. It was great. It was so fun. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so here's our submissions again from yesterday. We've got Hi from Utopia. Got some very cool animations here. All right, Travel 2. Oh, this was the Hello, Dave. This was Doris the bot. This was very cool. Hi there. You can call me Doris.
Doris kind of like a librarian name.
Yeah.
You think?
Well, it's I think more digestible than Cortana or whatever.
Right. I think Cortana is probably a wizard or something.
Trying a little.
Cortana.
I like it, but Siri was an acronym, right? So.
Right. Is Cortana an acronym?
A very long acronym. I like Doris. Oh, this one. I remember this one too. This was quite nice. It's like hand drawn. Beautiful. All right, so this should be inspiring you. We're going to give you 3 extra minutes to get your submissions in.
And we're on live tomorrow as well.
We're on live tomorrow as well.
If after the stream you're inspired,
that's right.
Get your work started early to submit tomorrow as well.
You've got another day and another chance to win. Now this is for a year of Creative Cloud, correct? This one at the end of our stream. That is correct. Okay, just verifying. All right, and the last one, last but not least, from Paul Van Summeren, who I believe is with us in the chat again today. Very nice work.
Oh yeah, this is the multiple scene deal.
Yes. Where the landing. Oh, monetization on there, Paul. Very good.
Yeah, with this 3D ship.
Yeah, really
Fun
nice.
use of I'm going to assume the Cinema 4D shape stuff that you can do in there.
Very nicely done.
Then the city comes up. Geodesic domes.
It's also interesting to see sort of the different approaches to again that color palette too. You know.
Yeah, we had everyone's starting from the same basic space.
Okay.
And ending up in
Yeah.
different
All right.
places. So we got gradients on legs now.
Some gradients on legs.
Yeah, and while
Stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks.
That's right. Oh, this person's got legs for days. But this, so what we've done is we're trying to. The back leg is a smooth gradient from the hip all the way to the foot. This foreground leg, we couldn't just jam an adjustment layer down. We could apply a ramp to these as well, and because it's frame related, that would work out. But something that I wanted to do is I wanted the gradient to kind of move with the legs.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've just used a linear gradient fill and made sure that the knee space, the knee just happens to be the same color for each. So the shin out here, there's the one.
I can't help it.
The shin here is going from the toe, well, if you had feet, and kind of just ends just at the knee here. And then the other layer kind of picks it up where that one left off.
Okay.
So the effect is that it looks fairly seamless, right? It's pretty close, right? When we shrink this down, we won't notice it.
That's right.
And when you apply that idea for the entire body, you do end up with the idea that the extremities are maybe lighter than the core, right? So you end up being able to delineate things, and just by using this gradient fill on them to make that happen. And it's a little bit better than just a simple silhouette. I think it works with the style of the piece a little bit better, because we could have just not used gradients, right? We could just use a slightly darker color, a slightly lighter color, but might as well use gradients if you got them, right?
Again, it just adds to that overall, for me, that organic, sort of very lifelike, fluid sort of representation.
And then when we come out here, we take that composition, we're going to put it somewhere. What we have is something that's monochromatic, it's black and white. And then to apply the gradient we want, I use the tint on that, and I put a curves adjustment first, which will allow me to kind of tighten up or loosen or play with the contrast.
Contrast, basically.
Brightness, that'll allow me to have a little bit of fine control, so that when the tint remaps black and white to the new brand colors, then I could play with this to say, well, he should be more this color, more that color, so you end up with that kind of a deal. What's great is that you're also able to, you've got another bubble man floating back here. This bubble man is brighter and more vivid because he is closer. Other bubble man is
darker, duller.
Less less contrasty because they're far away. And so, if you might say to yourself, well, if I'm bothering to put gradients on the person, why am I not just putting the colors I want here? Why is this not where the final color lives? But because we know in our planning, ultimately we're going to end up here, we can give ourselves a little bit of flexibility with these non-destructive effects that we just throw on top.
Just change them very easily.
Exactly, because what if the producer comes around and says, I'm actually feeling like some different colors on this person, this should be a pink person because I'm feeling very gender normative today, so we're gonna do that, like that could be what they're up to. Or they say, they want something else, they want this person darker, whatever. The point is that
it's 2 clicks here versus going back to the master comp and
saving yourself trouble by working flexibly. So this is something that I certainly struggled with in my earlier time, because I would think, oh, well, building in that flexibility is a waste of time. The project's gonna be done, we move on. Like, oh yeah, and I'm gonna never have a single revision ever. But you can kind of see in the falling person example, even though everything is totally two-dimensional, everything is totally flat, we have, because of that hip change that we talked about, you get the idea that they are kind of turning and twisting in the air, which is pretty fun. If you want to go the extra mile, throw some hair on them, that kind of thing.
I actually too. I didn't actually notice this before, but you have this sort of concaveness to the torso as it moves forward, which kind of
the trunk here.
Yeah, the trunk.
This person's core is nice and shapely because of a very new feature.
7-minute abs.
No,
that wasn't
right.
No.
Well,
Crunches and muscle milk.
That's right.
Why is it? Sorry.
So what I've done is I've used the nulls, the path to nulls, null to path script, which I think we'll talk about quite a bit more tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
Because we do not have too much time today. So this is kind of a teaser for
All right, and we've got let's give it one more minute, because then we're going to get to the submissions, so we can be right on time. Okay.
So the big thing that we're using it for is to basically take the position of the shoulders, the position of the hips, and then have a path that is stuck on those, but that still has its Bezier bend in it. So even though those two things are moving, they're getting closer, they're getting further away, that causes this person to bend and flex in that way. And we don't have to keyframe any of it. We don't have to do anything at all, really. Just have these keyframes.
Just have it there.
Yeah. The keyframes exist on the other things. They're controlling and they're bending. You could use a rubber hose plugin for this. However, this rubber hose can be a little bit intensive on your machine. This is so simple.
So simple and not.
It's so intuitive. There's no little widgets to play with, and it just works. But I promise we will talk more about that, because some of the cleverness in the other scenes is down to leveraging this brand new thing that I am maybe most excited about in the 2018 release, if I had to be honest. So yeah.
Okay, now wait a second. Is there a duplicate here? Looks like we've got two of the same. All right, so let's. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna review the submissions. So just give me a moment here, because what I want to do is just also bring up the names.
Right. So that we know who to attribute the greatness to.
Who's who?
Or is it whom?
Whom?
When do you use whom?
When do you use whom?
You know what? I have no idea.
All right, I'm going to use my trusty preview. Keep those names right over here on the side, so we can very easily reference the animations here. Let's minimize this dude. Okay. I'm hoping these are all in order.
We're going to
find out. All right. So here we go. Here are our submissions for today. First one from Laura Triana. We saw this one just moments ago.
Yeah, we got the nice crowds in there. Yeah, I mean, in a utopia where everyone moves at once to the sound of a drum. Oh, here we go.
All right, this is Renato Silva.
That's pretty good.
Kind of a similar character thing going on there too, with the gradients.
Yeah, a tree that replenishes itself as you eat its fruits of some kind.
Very nice, very nice. Nice work, Renato. Okay, this one is Niels Burr. Looks like we've got, I think it's the same from Niels. Climb the Adobe Mountains.
That's a nice landscape, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a good use of just some jagged things, parallaxed, and it tells you about the depth.
I think this might be the same one, but just posted to Behance. Let's see. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So this is Niels. All right. And then we've got Miguel Chamo.
Yeah, this guy's got a hose floating above the planet.
I like that. All right. Dana Pride. Escape from the Temple of Infinite Kittens. I like that.
It's interesting. See, for me, I would want to escape that temple right away. I'm allergic to cats. I'm not super down with animals.
Not super down with animals.
However, other people would be escaping to the temple of infinite cats.
Right.
I feel like some people would dive in there like Scrooge McDuck style.
All right, so here we've got Paul Van Sommeren again.
Oh, they float off into space. The little space person on the roller coaster. Whee!
That's nice.
It's a fun concept.
That's cool.
Of course, if you're riding a roller coaster in zero gravity, the inertia could put you into orbit.
Very cool. All right. And next is Kamal.
See, that's pretty fun. I like this has solid, smooth motion. Bit of that stretch and squash,
A motion blur in there as well.
Yeah, like it's got the strong fundamentals. So
Very nice.
simple geometry, strong fundamentals.
Okay. Oh, we've got Miguel again. Okay, and then last one here, Alex House. Turkey trash. Well, I guess even on Utopia, you end up with some of that. So
That's true.
Or tofurkey, or whatever your.
On Utopia, the rocks are made of turkey.
That's right. Turkey flavored rocks.
Right. Yeah.
It's real faux turkey flavoring. Do
It's
you remember that in the 80s? Whenever you'd see these things, and they'd always say real faux something, which means real fake.
yeah,
right?
but it's not imaginary.
That's right. and the best was, I remember there was a commercial selling jewelry of some kind, whatever it was, some cheap bracelets, and it was like, and now you too can be the proud owner of real faux diamond L's.
It's not even a real diamond L.
What is a diamond L in the first place, and what's a real fake one? It's like, wow, I need that. That's right. Yeah, it's real faux diamond L cubic zirconia. Like it's like the fakest of the fake.
Sweet.
So cool. Jeanette Conley, hey, how are you? Long time no see. All right, so those are our submissions. So here, we'll go through them real quickly one more time. Laura Triana, right? What kind of music is this? I guess it's whatever anyone would think. I'm curious what Laura was hearing there. I must admit I'm hearing more Latin flavored because of the conga drum, but...
Is that a keyboard?
It is.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's either a keyboard or a xylophone.
Yeah.
But...
Maybe it's a keyboard with a xylophone patch on it.
Okay.
Could be. All right, this one here, Renato Silva. Very nice. The replenishing tree.
It has an almost biblical sense.
It does,
eating
yeah.
from the tree there.
Like the gradients on there. Niels Burr. Get a nice use of those mountains there. Nice shapes. Little 2.5D space. I like that logo a lot. That looks that looks legit. Same one here. All right, Miguel.
All right, this is the Spaceman.
Oh, whoops! We
no.
went to a different video there. Spaceman.
Floating around, and you've got like the reflection of the curvature of the Earth in the
Yeah.
helmet that I think
That was super cool.
yeah,
Let's see that again. Watch it again.
good detail.
Again, all those little details that you were talking about.
If I were to make a recommendation, you could use a bunch of effects to really have use the bulge to have that going on in the helmet, right?
Right. To see the movement in the helmet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Escape from the Temple of the Infinite Kittens.
Everyone's favorite activity.
Dana Pride. That's right. All right. Paul Van Summeren.
Whee!
Our gravity-free roller coaster.
I like the stars. I like the stars back there.
Are you a roller coaster person?
I am not.
Me neither.
I have a hard time giving up that amount of control to machinery. I am totally fine going fast or doing something dangerous if I am ultimately in control of my own disaster. So skiing, snowboarding is fun. Like, that's great.
Right.
Longboarding is great. Surfing is great. But
Kamal.
being locked into a steel contraption hurling across a track does not do it for me.
Not a thing. For me, it's solely based around intense motion sickness and the propensity for puking. That's
Okay, it's more of a physical reaction.
pretty much puts the kibosh on most things of that nature. I was recently in Disneyland, and I had to do like the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride,
Okay,
which is a free fall.
that has a lot of motion in it.
A lot
right?
of motion in there. A lot of very potential motion sickness.
Well,
But I did it, and it's phenomenal, by the way.
okay, it's a very immersive.
Oh my god, immersive, and I think all of the visuals inside, because there's video of all the characters from the film, shot in 8K displayed on these screens. So again, you free fall, a window opens, and you're seeing, Star-Lord and everybody, and I was blown away. I mean, not only does it feel like they're right there, and it's not 3D or VR, it's just a screen, but I think just the nature of how it's processed, how it's presented, how it's color graded in front of you, and it's a full-sized screen, so it's sort of...
Your entire field of vision is taken up.
It's really quite something. I did not do California Screaming because that's guaranteed puke central.
I've never been to Disney. So
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You should detour before you head back.
Maybe.
Do a day,
Spend a day in line.
All right, so we've got 6 minutes until the end. Okay. So
we need to pick a winner now, or we leave them in suspense till the?
I think. What do you think? I think we can pick the winner, and then we're going to do some closing remarks and maybe take some questions.
Right.
What do you think? All right.
That's good.
So you've seen the animations. We've seen your work. Thank you very much. We can go back to the 2 chakras, and I think it is now time for the Gus bot to pick our winner.
Oh, do we pick it, or does Gus pick it?
Do we pick it, or do you pick it, the winner? We pick it. Oh, okay.
Well,
you're the man.
Yeah. Personally, I'm feeling that the simpler one that had the strong fundamentals. Where is it? Next. More next.
Oh, it's that one again. There we go.
Where is it after that? I think. No, that's the cats.
This one here.
Or maybe it's the one after that. Yeah, this one that
from Kamal.
It's fairly simple, but it has all of the solid elements in the motion, right? That are pretty good. I like that jitter at the end. Like it's got all the little touches, and it's fairly simple, but it's got the little touches, that sell it. So the motion has character to it. Arriving to the planet is kind of jarring, like there it is, right? That kind of feeling.
Just now, it's playing in real time. By the way, we're playing this off a Dropbox, so but it's really, the motion's very nice and the blur.
Yeah. So I think I'd give it to that one.
Give it to that one. All right. Yep. Congratulations, Kamal.
Woo!
You did it.
You nailed it. Also, it really seems like it might have been made in the time in which we were talking, which is pretty awesome. So,
I didn't notice the little rotation there too on the planet. That's actually very, very
cool.
The
planet is mildly going.
Mildly going. Very nice.
There's always more layers. So,
all right. Well, again, congratulations, Kamal. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. We've got about 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah. So your guys' participation really makes it all good. We love all the back and forth in the chat. If folks have any questions, this is the time. But we are back tomorrow, same time. It was at 1 p.m. Pacific
right.
to 3. If you didn't get something submitted into the contest today, work on it tonight, bring it in tomorrow, and come in tomorrow with even more questions and curiosities, and we'll make that happen. So it'll be great.
Now, what are we largely going to be looking at tomorrow? Because we kind of broken down a couple of these so far. But your larger animation, this one, can we play this one too again, just for those?
Yeah, let's see the big thing.
Didn't get to see it all. This is really stunning. This is
the large piece that everything assembles to become. We'll probably look at that teleportation gate up in the corner. I think that one's a fine one to get into. We might get into the robot butler over there. And probably this tent scene that is intense, where we go from one kind of object to another using some effects to make it feel a little bit more futuristic and interesting, to kind of cover up some real time-saving moves that we did in there. So oftentimes there it is, when it transforms from one thing into another thing. So these are the scenes we'll be looking at, sort of conceptually, how to build them, how we start thinking about them, and then how we execute them. So when we think about things like this gate here, we're going from one location to another, but that could be a nice transition from one scene to another. Could be someone walking out of their home into like an outside that doesn't belong there. Like, this is the sort of thing that we end up using a lot of the time, transitioning from one scene to another in an imaginative way, transitioning from one object to another in an imaginative way. That is the the core of stuff. And if we have time, we get into some text stuff tomorrow.
Awesome.
If people want to do that. So. Yeah.
Text always, people always, no one's ever going to say no text. Text typography is always a big winner. Incidentally, I see now we've got a couple of late submissions. So guess what? You will go into the running tomorrow. So we will check those out tomorrow. Juan, Nasser, and Dover. We will, you will be part of tomorrow's new pool of potential winners.
Yep.
And again, thank you so much. Coming up again, we've got Christine Herron. Who's going to be working here with Kathleen. I keep wanting to say Kathleen Illustrated, which is how I knew you first. And you, of course, that's your real name.
Legally
That's right.
changed.
Legally changed. Much like Vincent Fernier became Alice Cooper, right?
Is that from the New Hampshire Illustrateds?
That's right. Right. I was thinking of the Tennessee Illustrateds.
They have a house in Montauk.
That's right. Oh, right. Okay. So, Sarah, Dana, Laura, Nasser, Inez, and everyone who's joined us today, thank you again so much. And Evan, thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Super awesome to have you here for day 2. Again, we'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific time, right here at behance.net/live. Remember, we've got a contest going on, and there are still more chances to win. We're going to have our random giveaway for some prints and some other things with Christine and Kathleen, so stick around for that. We've got 20 seconds. Any final thoughts?
Go Sens, go. That's for my hometown hockey team.
Oh, a lot of happy birthdays for you. Very nice. All right.
And thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
As I crumble into sand.